Hi there,
Hello.
and welcome home.
Welcome.
Here on Home with the Harrisons, we make content based on our many hobbies. For me, that tends to be more cooking and a little bit of lifestyle thrown in, like today. And for Joe,
You know, whatever comes to mind. I do all the video editing behind the scenes.
yeah, he does all of the editing and a lot of the camera work, so a lot of his work you don't get to see. But the work you will get to see is he has videos on gaming and philosophy up on our channel. We can't name all of our hobbies right here, but if any of that stuff we just mentioned sounds good, you should go check out some of our other videos. You can like or subscribe if you want. We try and put out at least one video a week.
We're cooking with Jesse Stensberg.
So, today we're going to be talking about how to plan a small Thanksgiving dinner. This year, we're having a very small Thanksgiving dinner. It's just going to be the four of us, Joe and I, and Teddy and Bart, our two boys. But that's not usually how it is.
No, not at all. Usually it's much bigger. But like the small ones are like 20 people. 2 years ago was absolutely epic sized with more than 50 people. So it gets pretty big, but this year's gonna be different.
Yeah, well, when we're used to doing these big potluck dinners where we make enormous amounts of food, but each of us might only have to do a few dishes, it can be tough to transfer from that to we have to make all the dishes by ourselves. So we had a lot of planning.
Yes.
A lot of planning. A lot more than we would for our traditional Thanksgivings, because it's almost rote by now.
Yeah.
And a lot of stages of planning.
And a lot more decisions to make.
And a lot of decisions to make. And we're going to take you through all those stages of planning that we had.
So let's get to it.
The first thing we did when I even started thinking about planning Thanksgiving is I sat everyone in the house down, Joe and myself and the two boys, and asked them what was non-negotiable for them for Thanksgiving. In other words, what makes Thanksgiving Day to you?
Yeah, what was really important?
Exactly. And I got a lot of different answers. Okay, Teddy just said that he wanted meat of some kind, which wasn't a surprise. That kid loves his meat.
Yeah.
But Bart said that he needed to have turkey. Thanksgiving wasn't Thanksgiving without turkey. And so I did some mental revising because I had been planning on making a roast chicken instead, smaller, fewer leftovers. But if he needed a turkey for it to be Thanksgiving, I can find a small turkey and roast that for him. For you?
For me, it was mashed potatoes and apple pie.
Mm-hmm. And we will be making mashed potatoes and apple pie.
Yeah.
For me, there were a few things. I know that I need a meal that has been planned out and lovingly prepared. And I know this from experience because there was one Thanksgiving where Bart got sick. Right as we were about to drive off for our morning race, which we do just about every year.
Yeah.
Except for the year that I gave birth to Bart, and that's because he's an October baby. Anyway, so we were about to go off to this race, and he got sick, and I was in charge of the turkey for the large family gathering that year. And so I still spent the morning making the turkey. Joe drove it over to the big family gathering.
Yeah, at my sister's
And
house.
we were just so exhausted from taking care of sick kid and cooking all morning and all those things that I couldn't even think about dinner. Joe eventually went in the pantry and grabbed some boxed mac and cheese. I'm not ashamed to say that I cried because boxed mac and cheese is not a festive Thanksgiving meal.
No.
But now I know that carefully planned meal is so important to me. More specifically, I really need some veggies.
Yeah.
With my Thanksgiving Day meal. So Brussels sprouts, a green salad, and I need to have that run. Even that year where Bart was sick, I still went out on my run, even though I wasn't racing. I just needed to get those miles in, you know? So those are the things that are important to me. make sure that you don't just ask everyone around you what's important to them. Make sure you think about what's important to you, too. If you're doing all this work to prepare for this small Thanksgiving, it should be something that's satisfying for you as well.
Yeah, it's important that you realize what your own needs are.
And make sure that everyone's needs are met.
So let's plan that menu.
Once you've asked everybody what they really need for Thanksgiving, it's time to plan out your menu. Usually for us, like I said earlier, we have a potluck for Thanksgiving where everybody brings an enormous amount of maybe 1 or 2 or 3 dishes. That way, everyone's just making 1 or 2 things in their oven and you don't have to worry about oven space so much. But this year, we're making it all ourselves. That means that we have to be planning out that oven space with military precision, practically.
Yeah, and you know, if you can get away with not making something yourself.
Right, because I was writing down my menu and then for my oven space, I was writing down all the things that need to go in the oven, their timers, their temps, and I had like written out a diagram to try and figure out where everything was going to go. And I was going to make bread that morning, and Joe bought bread to make sure that I didn't have to do that. So that's a great example. Yes, my homemade bread may be tastier than most things we can buy at the grocery store, but homemade bread is not absolutely one of the non-negotiables for any of us. So getting some store-bought bread wasn't a big deal.
And maybe for you, there's other things that aren't big deals. Like, you know, for us, turkey was a non-negotiable from part, but maybe it's not for you. So maybe that's something where you can just save some time and go get a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, rotisserie chicken, or you know, they sell turkey breasts in small amounts.
Yeah.
Or you know,
Cook
maybe
up
this
relatively
year,
quickly.
you could roast a chicken, or maybe this year you wanted to do individual Cornish hens for the people who are there. So there's lots of options where you can still have something that looks very similar to a traditional Thanksgiving Day meal, but you can just tweak things a little bit so that they're more friendly for a smaller meal. The other thing is, there are definitely things that I am not used to cooking.
Yeah.
I cook a lot of things.
Gravy.
I'm terrible at gravy. The only times I've had successful gravy so far have been when the turkey itself comes with one of those gravy packets.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I know I'm bad at it, I just roasted a chicken and I made some gravy and it turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
Because it came with a gravy packet. But I also have plans for how I'm going to make the gravy the day of, and I also have backup plans. So I have like the turkey gravy seasoning mix in like the little paper packet that you can get at the grocery store. I have one of those just in case my first batch of gravy doesn't turn out from the drippings. And I also have a jar of pre-made turkey gravy just in case those first 2 options don't turn out. So if there's anything that you know that you struggle with typically, and it's one of those non-negotiables for somebody, maybe make sure you have some backups on hand.
Yep. Just hoping that there's a gravy packet in the turkey we bought.
So we touched on this a little bit in the planning your menu stage, but here's where you're really gonna want to get down into the little details of planning your cooking.
There's a lot to plan.
There is, especially if you're making all of your meal, for your small meal for just yourselves, you're making all of the different items, you have to figure out what gets cooked on the stovetop, what gets cooked in the oven, what is it possible to make ahead of time, and what is it really necessary to put in the oven and have cooked fresh. So, for example, we'll be baking the apple pie Wednesday night.
Yes.
We will definitely be making that in advance and then just warming it up while we're eating our turkey. The turkey is about a 3-hour cook for the small bird that we've got, and then the last 45 minutes I will be putting the Brussels sprouts in to roast because we want them both sort of hot at the same time. The Brussels sprouts require a higher temperature, so towards the end of the turkey cooking, I tend to raise the temperature anyway to sort of brown the skin. You really want to think about all of the cooking times, what temperatures you need things to be at, and like I said earlier, you're gonna want to write this all down. It's practically one of those word problems in math class.
It really is. Yeah. But you can do it. Just plan ahead and be prepared.
And be precise. If you know you've only got one oven and one range top, then you just need to plan it out and make sure that you've thought of everything and
Move forward.
move forward. Then you'll be done. Once you have everything for the meal planned out, it's still not time to cook yet. First, you have to plan out what you're going to do with those leftovers. Now, maybe you planned a meal that isn't going to have any leftovers.
Congratulations.
That's not the case for us. But you know, if you were really careful and only decided to have like a small turkey breast or individual Cornish hens for people, that is a sort of meal that will have very little waste to it. But if you are having a 12-pound turkey, which is still one of the smallest turkeys you can find, for 4 people, that's a good 4 or 5 meals for us, at least. And in our family anyway, we are not the type of people who will eat mashed potatoes and stuffing and gravy and turkey every day until it's gone.
I get really sick of eating the same thing all the time.
And I get really sick of turkey. We're not going to go into too much detail on specific things you can make for turkey. That's for next episode. I will be talking about different things you can make with leftover turkey. The obvious example would be turkey noodle soup, but Joe tells me that this isn't something that everybody makes the day after Thanksgiving, that that's just a me thing.
I hear a lot more about like turkey sandwiches than turkey soup.
But for us, it's a tradition.
Yes.
The turkey's not the only thing you have to worry about, too. We bought a 5-pound bag of potatoes, so we will be having 5 pounds worth of mashed potatoes.
There will be leftovers.
There will be, and stuffing as well. So just trying to think about different ways to combine these leftovers or even use them individually in separate meals so that you can make meals that seem creative and fresh and not the same Thanksgiving dinner over and over again. Plan it out before you eat, because if you're just looking at a bunch of Tupperware containers full of leftover food, at that point you're just gonna feel overwhelmed and you're gonna try and eat the leftovers until they're gone. And I can tell you, I put a lot of time and energy and care into the food that I make for people. Feeding people is probably my primary way of loving them. It makes me so sad when leftovers go bad and we have to throw them away. When we plan out in advance, when we know there's going to be leftovers, that means it's a lot less likely that there's food that needs to be thrown away. And that makes me a lot happier. So, we have done all these steps of planning. We have everything planned out in beautiful, meticulous detail.
But things never go according to plan.
Something's going to go wrong. Just something is going to go wrong.
Maybe you burned the turkey.
Maybe you screwed up all 3 backups of the gravy. I'm so worried about the gravy this year, guys.
Anyway, be prepared to give yourself a little grace.
That's right. Especially if you have small kids around. It's so tempting to think that we have to make this day perfect for them because everything in the world is so messed up right now. But you know, it's a lot easier to remember that Mama had a breakdown and went and cried for an hour on Thanksgiving Day than it is to remember that the turkey or the gravy or whatever was burned or dropped or...
what's going to be important to your kids is, and your whole family, is less about the food or the specific things, but that you got to be together as a family and do things together that were special, whatever that happens to be. So be flexible and give yourself grace.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. It doesn't have to be perfect. The last thing we wanted to talk to you about today was planning on getting in touch with your family.
Yep, because, well, you're not going to get to see them in person most likely, so figure out, plan ahead, and talk to them in advance about when you're going to have that Thanksgiving Day call.
You might want to talk to them on the phone. I know there's several video chatting services, but be prepared for slowdowns. It's going to be busy. So like Joe said, you should definitely schedule out a time in advance. I know for us, there's probably 4 or 5 different nuclear families that we're going to want to call and have time to talk with. And that means we need to schedule out times for each one. Otherwise, there's a chance we might miss somebody. And that wouldn't be... Thanksgiving isn't Thanksgiving without family, you know? So make sure that you're planning on giving them a call, or Zooming, or Skyping, or Facebook messaging, or whatever you're doing. Make sure that you plan it out in advance. And the other thing is, be patient. I know Zoom is opening up their Pro Unlimited stuff on Thanksgiving Day for free, and they are going to have so many calls. Facebook Messenger is going to have so many calls. All of these different things, they're going to be so busy. You might have little bumps in your call, or slowdowns, or dropped calls. Just be patient. I used to work at a call center, and so did he, and Thanksgiving Day is, I believe, the second busiest day after Christmas Day for phone calls. So yeah, just be patient and try not to get too frustrated with any dropped calls or slowdowns.
Another thing you can do to try to avoid dropped calls is try to make your calls at odd times.
Yeah, so if you want to call people early in the morning or late in the evening, and not, 2 in the afternoon,
yeah,
you are more likely to get through.
Those hours between noon and 8 p.m. are going to be the busiest.
All right. Well, that is an awful lot of planning that we've done. And no matter what you do for Thanksgiving, I hope you have a happy and safe one. Keep wearing your masks. Follow the best practices as laid out by the CDC or whatever the health organization is in your country. Be safe. Be kind to one another. Yes, take care of each other. I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.